People think the hardest part of growing up is learning to live on your own. For me, it was learning that the people who raised me never planned on standing beside me when I finally made it. The day I signed the papers for my first home. The biggest moment of my life. I sat alone in a cold lobby with 2 empty chairs beside me. No congratulations. No proud smiles. No "we're here for you, sweetheart." Just silence. And then, 1 week later, my mother finally texted. And 1 week after that, the police arrived at my front door. That was the moment I realized something important. When you succeed, the people who wanted you small will do anything to pull you back down. My name is Harper Lane. And everything I'm about to tell you is a story I never imagined I would live through. I grew up in a house where love was conditional. Where affection came only when I was useful. Where family meant do what we say. Stay where we want. Don't become more than us. I spent years believing they cared. Years believing that once I achieved something big, something meaningful, they would finally see me. But the truth? Some people don't want to see you rise. Because your growth reminds them of everything they refuse to become. I bought my house the hard way. No help, no cosigner, no emotional support. I worked 2 jobs. I lived on cheap meals. I collected every spare dollar like it was oxygen. Every time I talked about owning a home, my mom rolled her eyes. She'd say things like, "Harper, people like us don't buy houses. Stay with us. Why waste money? You're trying too hard. Life isn't meant to be this serious. You think you're better than the family?" But I wasn't trying to be better than anyone. I was trying to be better than the life they settled for. So when my loan was approved, and my signing day was set, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. I wanted that moment to be special. I wanted my family to be part of it. And they promised. They all promised. My mom said, "I'll be there early. Send me the time again." My dad said, "Proud of you, kiddo. Text me the address." My sister said, "OMG, this is huge. I'm definitely coming." I believed them. Of course I did. Because you never expect the people you love to be the first ones to hurt you. The lobby smelled like fresh coffee and new paper. A little bell chimed every time the door opened. People walked in with their friends, partners, families. Everyone had someone. Everyone except me. I kept checking my phone. Kept checking the door. Kept telling myself, "They're just running late. They'll be here any minute." The agent smiled politely. She tried making small talk. But I could feel her eyes drifting toward the empty chairs beside me. 30 minutes passed. Then 45. Then an hour. Finally she said, "We can begin whenever you're ready." I swallowed my pride. I signed the papers. I smiled for the photos I had no one to take for me. I held the keys with trembling hands. I walked outside into the sunlight. With a house. But no family to share the moment with. That night, I sat on the floor of my empty living room and cried harder than I had in years. Not because I was alone, but because they chose not to show up. A full week passed. 7 days. No calls. No messages. Nothing. Then finally, my mom texted. "Sorry, sweetie, something came up." "How's the house?" "Something came up." That's all my entire milestone meant to her. A footnote. A forgotten appointment. An afterthought. I typed 3 different responses before I finally settled on the safest one. "It's fine." Because I still hoped she cared. I still hoped maybe next time would be different. I didn't know it yet. But that text was only the beginning. The real storm, the one that would change everything, was coming. It was a quiet Sunday morning. I was unpacking boxes, humming to myself, feeling, finally, like the house was becoming a home. Then there was a knock. Firm. Authoritative. Too heavy to be a neighbor. When I opened the door, 2 police officers were standing there. My stomach dropped. "Are you Harper Lane?" one of them asked. "Yes, what's going on?" "We received a report from a family member. They requested a welfare check." "A welfare check? Filed by my mother. The same woman who didn't show up for my signing. The same woman who took a week to text me. The same woman who hadn't visited me once." She told the police. I was unstable. That I isolated myself. That she was worried I might hurt myself. She made me look unfit, unwell, unsafe. Why? Because I moved. Because I succeeded. Because I stopped being dependent on her. That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not in anger. In clarity. My mother wasn't checking on me. She was trying to control me. Manipulate me. Pull me back into the role. That made her feel powerful. But this time, I wasn't going back. This wasn't a welfare check. It was the beginning of her trying to ruin what I built. And she had no idea that she just triggered the biggest revenge arc of my life. When the officer stepped into my living room, I felt the air tighten. Not because I had done anything wrong, but because I finally understood just how far my mother was willing to go to drag me back under her control. One officer gently asked, "Is everything okay here? Are you safe?" I nodded. But my voice cracked when I said, "I'm fine. I just don't know why my family would call." He exchanged a look with his partner. The kind that said, "We know this story, we've seen it before." After checking the house, making sure I wasn't in danger, they both relaxed. One of them said, "Ma'am, we're going to note that you're completely fine. But, you may want to talk to your family." The report made it sound serious. Serious. That word stung. Because in my mother's world, nothing was serious. Until she could use it to make herself the victim. When they finally left, I shut the door quietly. Then slid down against it. Until I hit the floor. I wasn't crying out of fear. I wasn't crying because of the cops. I was crying because that moment, that stupid, painful moment, was when the last thread snapped. I was done trying to win my mother's approval. Done begging for her love. Done wanting her to show up for me when she never would. That Sunday morning, I didn't lose a mother. I lost the illusion of one. Hours later, my phone buzzed. "Mom." The timing was no accident. I answered. "Why did you call the police on me?" Her voice came sugar-coated, fake soft. "Well, sweetheart, you weren't responding. I was worried you might be unstable. New houses can be very isolating." I cut her off. "Mom, you didn't come to my signing." Silence. Then a cold, sharp reply. "Well, we didn't think you'd actually go through with it." We. Not I. We. My whole family had decided. My success was either unbelievable or inconvenient. I took a breath. "So instead of congratulating me, you filed a welfare check?" She sighed dramatically. Like she was the one being wronged. "You moved out too fast. You're acting differently. We needed to make sure you weren't making bad choices." There it was. Not concern. Control. She wasn't checking if I was safe. She was checking if I was still hers. I ended the call without another word. That night, for the first time in my life, I slept peacefully. Because the truth had finally surfaced. And truth, even when painful, is freedom. Days passed. My family went silent. Not one person visited. Not one person apologized. But then something happened. People began showing up. Not family. Neighbors. Coworkers. Friends I didn't know were paying attention. They helped me unpack. Helped me paint. Helped me laugh again. And I realized something. Sometimes the family you build is more real than the family you're born into. My house became a home. Because of people who chose me. Not people who owned me. But my mother? She wasn't done. A few weeks later, I got another text. This time harsher. Sharper. Almost threatening. Mom. You need to come back home. You're acting irresponsible. Your new house has changed you. Yes. It had. It made me independent. And she hated that. Hours later another text. If you don't come over, we're going to get the authorities involved again. Authorities. Again. For what? For living my own life? That was the moment. I stopped being scared. And started being strategic. I saved every text. Every message. Every lie. Every attempt at manipulation. Because I finally understood who I was dealing with. A parent who wasn't parenting. A parent who was bullying. And bullies don't stop. Until you push back. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to play her game. I was going to win. With the one thing she never expected. Documentation. I spoke to a lawyer. Not for a lawsuit. For boundaries. For protection. For peace. He listened. He read the messages. He understood immediately. He said, "This is harassment. You can legally request no contact. And if the police come again, this time it works in your favor." For the first time, I felt like the ground under me was solid. I filed a formal notice. Any false report, any harassment, any manipulation, would be documented legally. My lawyer sent the notice to my mother directly. Within minutes, my phone exploded with calls. I didn't answer a single one. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the scared daughter. I was the adult who finally took control. A week later, I agreed to meet them once. In public. In a cafe full of people. So no one could twist the story. My mom walked in with that dramatic wounded bird expression she always wore when she wanted attention. "Harper, how could you do this to us?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "You didn't come to my signing. That was just one day." "No," I said quietly. "It was every day. Every birthday you forgot. Every achievement you ignored. Every time you made me feel small. And then you sent the police to my door. To punish me for growing." She froze. I continued. Calm, steady. Finally in control. "I'm not your little girl anymore. And you don't get to dictate my life. Just because you don't understand it." My sister tried jumping in. "Harper, you're being dramatic." I shook my head. "No. I'm being done." And like that, I stood up. Grabbed my keys. Walked out. I didn't storm off. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. Because leaving isn't dramatic. When you're walking toward peace. Revenge isn't shouting. Revenge isn't hurting someone back. Revenge is living the life they said you'd never have. Revenge is succeeding in silence until your existence is louder than their insults ever were. I built my home. I built my independence. I built my peace. And slowly, my mother learned something painful. When you treat your child like a burden, you lose the privilege of being part of their victories. Months later, I stood in my driveway at sunset. Warm light hit the windows. The house glowed. The air felt safe. I whispered to myself, "You did this. Not for them. Not to prove a point. Not to earn love. But for me. For the girl who grew up unheard. For the woman who finally walked away. For the future I refused to surrender." My home wasn't just a building. It was the first thing in my life that was entirely, unapologetically mine. And that was worth every tear. Every silent signing day. Every police knock. Every painful goodbye. Because peace, real peace, is the sweetest revenge of all.